Do you think you are very smart? Do you consider yourself wise? Would you be able to convince me that you are? Have you convinced the people in your life that you are a man or a woman of wisdom and understanding? If you think about it, how do you prove that? How do you show that to somebody? You might tell them of your experience or your education or your many accomplishments. But what does that really amount to? We all know people with fancy degrees, high education. They have a lot of prefixes in front of their name. People that say they're smart, but when you get to know them, maybe they're not so smart. How can you tell? What is the evidence of a person of wisdom? James will tell us in chapter 3, verse 13, but before he does, he makes this question personal to each of the recipients of this letter that he wrote. Each of his readers, he asks them, who among you is wise and understanding? I asked the same question this morning. How did you answer? Do you feel wise in and of yourself? Do you maybe want to change the answer that you gave initially? Do you hope to be somebody of wisdom? Well, how do you show wisdom? James 3:13 tells us, let them show by their good behavior deeds done in the gentleness of wisdom. When you think of wisdom, who do you think of? Some of the younger people might know Kung Fu Panda. What are these people like? Are they fast, loud? Are they wild? Are they always talking? Are they anxious? Are they excited? Not at all. When we think of wisdom, we think of somebody who, as James would say, embodies the idea of the gentleness of wisdom. They don't get excited because maybe they do have experience. They've seen it all before. People of wisdom are not usually the type of people to get red in the face and argue. They don't scream and yell as much. They're more reserved. They're more gentle. We understand the wisdom found in the Word of God. We know it's true because of what we can see and what we can experience. We know that people express their wisdom not just in the things that they say, but in the things that they do. I think of a mom with a baby and the diaper needs to be changed, but she doesn't have any with her. And then there's that mom, the other mom, who hands her the spare that she brought with her, and she hands it to her with that understanding smile, right? That's the gentleness of wisdom. When I think of gentle wisdom, I think of Great Grandpa Wiggins. And I think of all the times that he took me fishing. I don't know how to fish. I never knew where to throw the line. But Grandpa, in his gentleness, in his wisdom, he would guide me and he'd say, why don't you throw over there? And it just seemed that as soon as that line hit the water, there was a fish on it. I remember one time there was a group of younger kids and they were arguing, and some of us adults, we were nearby. And you know when you catch the tail end of an argument and you just you already know who's at fault, who's guilty, who's innocent, how to proceed with dealing out judgment, right? So I thought, okay, I know the situation. I'm wise and understanding. And I asked this person who I thought was innocent, tell me your side of the story. And I tell you what, I nailed it. They told me, just as I had suspected, they were indeed the innocent party. I, picked up my imaginary gavel. I was ready to case dismissed, deal out the judgment. And one of the other adults standing nearby, somebody who actually had wisdom and understanding, they interrupted and they said, talking to the same person that I had already declared as innocent in my mind, they said, okay, what did you do to cause them to do this to you? And I remember this so vividly because that was one of the first moments when I realized that's what it means to get both sides of the story. I was shocked that this innocent person admitted to teasing this other party. They had instigated the fight. They had instigated the argument. This other adult proved in that moment that they had great wisdom. And you always know that the people that have wisdom, because in the gentleness, they look over the edge of their glasses and they say, what did you do to cause this? How many of you have been looked at over the rim of your glasses? Are you wise? James asks. Show it by your good deeds, by your good behavior, in the gentleness of wisdom. This idea comes right on the heels of what James said in chapter 2. I'll show you my faith by what I do. Now in chapter 3, James is saying the same thing, but now he's saying, show wisdom by what you do as a Christian. James could ask, is Christian what you're claiming? Is that what you want to be known as? Claiming that you are a Christian, that you know how to act, that you understand the mysteries of God, and that you know what it means to be a Christian? Is that what you're saying? Is that our claim in our day-to-day life? James just got done saying in chapter 3, verses 11 through 12, that a fountain cannot produce salt water and fresh water at the same time. A fig tree cannot produce figs and olives at the same time. This is all related, church. James is telling us consistency. What we say needs to match what we do. And we need to be doers of the good things that we know and that we see in the word of truth. I mean, James is really kind of picking on us Christians, isn't he? Bringing us up to soberly reflect on the things that we're saying every day. Do you have good behavior, he's asking? Are your deeds done in the gentleness of wisdom? James gives us clarification in verse 14. If you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your heart, do not be arrogant and lie against the truth. In today's culture, we think about the kind of career and motivational advice that we hear every single day. A typical life coach would tell you, just look around you. See what you want and go after it. Do the things that would help you attain your life goals for yourself, right? The idea is a successful person is somebody that knows what they want and they're willing to do it, no matter what it takes. That is so common that it just sounds natural to us, doesn't it? We hear it so many times. What does envy look like? With the development of the internet, discontentment has become so much more prevalent because now we know all the things that we don't have. We can see all the things that everybody else has, and they're at the same part of life that we're at. We're at the same part of our journey. I should have all the things that they have, and it's not fair that they have it and I don't. I should get it. Selfish ambition. Ooh, I want this. I want that. That would be cool. When did I order that? Now, there's nothing wrong with buying things for yourself, but is that all we do? There's nothing wrong with ambition and doing better or being better, improving your life. But with everything, we must understand the reasoning and the motivation why we are doing the things we do. Even the things that we don't think about. We need to ask ourselves, what is the reason I do these things? Is this something for the family, something that can benefit more than just me? Will this draw me closer to God or help me serve others in a better way? Or is this exclusively for myself? Something that I want, and it serves no other purpose than to make me happy for 10 seconds, and then after that I'm going to regret the time and the money spent acquiring this, and I'm going to regret that I was over here instead of being there where I was actually needed, where I was supposed to be. I heard a very wise man once tell me that he spent all of his years acquiring wealth in the name of providing for his family, when in reality he was providing for his own pride. And his family would have preferred that he would just be with them instead of out working and providing for them. It's an interesting thought to consider what it means to lie against the truth there at the end of verse 14. What do you think that means, to lie against the truth? It means, James is telling us, that the Bible clearly lays out the actions, the words, and the deeds of a Christian. And he's telling us, don't act otherwise and claim that it's still being a Christian. Don't lie against the truth. If you are wise, if you are understanding of what God expects, then somebody who is wise and understanding changes their life to match what we see in the word of truth. What it says is good and proper for an actual Christian. Again, James would say in chapter 3, verse 2, we all stumble. In what we say, in what we do, be humble. Admit to your faults. Ask God for the wisdom to know what to do. Ask Him that you can be a doer of what you know is right. Thank Him for His love, for His grace, and for His mercy when you fall flat on your face, as we all do. Ask Him that you can show that same love, grace, and mercy to others when they stumble. Has anybody ever tasted salt water? Probably most of us involuntarily. That's what I think of when I look at verse 14, where it says bitter, jealousy, and selfish ambition. I mean, when you drink seawater, that is a powerful flavor, and it's called nasty. In James 3, verse 12, salt water is contrasted to fresh water. And James says a Christian cannot be both. He says we are a fountain. And he asks us to consider, what are we producing? What are we giving out? Are we giving out fresh water? Or is it bitter and full of jealousy and selfish ambition? James 3:15 says, this wisdom is not that which comes down from above, but is earthly, natural, demonic. Church, this is why we need to be so careful and really check ourselves in the things that we've just always done. The things that seem natural to us. Look what James lists that among. Things that are evil and demonic. We need to be aware of the motivation and the source of everything that we do. Ask ourselves the question, is this leading me closer to God? If I follow this path, where is it going to take me? The things of this earth that seem so natural and so common to us, so normal, sometimes they can be a source of evil, can't they? James in 3:16 says, "For where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, where these things are, there is disorder in every evil thing." A great way to tell if something is wrong is to look at the emotions and the attitudes behind it. Am I doing this just because somebody else does it? Am I doing this because somebody else has it? Am I doing this to promote me and to my excess and my greed? If these are the attitudes of the individual, you can be certain that their life is also full of disorder and a plethora of other evil things. But church, ambition is not just for money or for stuff and for things. Selfish ambition finds its way into relationships, into our responsibilities and duties. I tend to be a very selfish person. And God has blessed me with a very selfless wife and two of the most wonderful children that I have ever seen. Church, pray for me. Because I fail every single day as a husband and as a parent. You know, I was single for 26 years. I got pretty good at looking out for number one. But the almost 10 years now, Dee, that we've been together, and my wisdom level isn't quite where it needs to be yet, you know? Still growing. But I'm not very mindful of my wife all the time. I'm not mindful of my children. I say all this because sometimes selfish ambition means, hey, I'm going to go mow the yard instead of deal with this attitude. Or I'm going to go be productive over here instead of play with you. And even though that fills your batteries, I don't feel like I've accomplished anything today, so I need to go be busy elsewhere. That's also selfish ambition. How about as a Christian? Lord, I know I'm supposed to watch what I say, but it's easier if I just kind of live in the moment and just let things flow out of my mouth naturally. I know I'm supposed to love and be a peacemaker, but I really don't want to let them off easy. I'd rather hold on to bitter jealousy and have us both go to an early grave holding on to contempt. Is that a Christian? Or is that lying against the truth of what a Christian actually is? James 3:17. Now we get to the good stuff. Woo! Sometimes you got to get through the mud to get to the clearing, right? James 3:17, church, and I hope you are able to read that. The wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, reasonable, full of mercy and good fruits, unwavering and without hypocrisy. Let's look at this just for a few minutes. Pure wisdom from above. What does it mean to be pure? Make sure that the source of your wisdom is God and His truth, and make sure nothing else is being mixed in. Just a little bit can change what you have as pure, right? I think of taking milk and just adding a little bit of Nestle's chocolate mix, right? It'll change the color just with a few grains. Pure wisdom is from God and nothing else. How often have we heard things like cleanliness is next to godliness? Did you know that's not in the Bible? It sounds like it is, right? That's the point. How many other things do we assume are in the Bible? How many other things do we assume this is right, this is the way it's supposed to be? Cleanliness might be next to godliness, but I also read where Jesus spit in the dirt, made some money, wiped it on somebody else's eyes. That's in my Bible. Make sure that your source is God, and nothing else is mixed in. Be peaceable. This does not mean that you're a pushover, but that you're active in making and keeping the peace. Sometimes this means setting boundaries and setting that hard line and rules where people can't cross. But more often, this means swallowing that elephant called pride. Being the first one to apologize. But don't forget, maintaining peace also goes vertical, doesn't it? Is your life governed in such a way that it keeps peace between you and God? Wisdom from above is gentle and reasonable. I like the way that the Greek word is. I'm not even going to try to say it. But it gives this idea that you reason with your mind, that you think about it. You're even persuaded by what? By your buddies? No, that didn't work out very well for Job, did it? What are we persuaded by? What are we guided by? The instructions of God. We're guided by them in our actions. We're guided by His truths. Why do you love your enemies? Because God told us to. He showed us that in loving even our enemies, it keeps our soul clean. And sometimes we have that added benefit of sprinkling coals on the top of their head, right? With our good actions towards them, our love and kindness. That's a great segue to talk about mercy. Wisdom is full of mercy. I like that James says full of mercy. I could probably preach the whole time on just the occasions where I was taken to the side and I was encouraged to do better, to say things in a better way, to act in a better way. Those are the moments that I cherish, church. Those are the moments that are hard to hang on to because they hurt. But that's where our growth is found, isn't it? When somebody full of mercy takes us aside, they could really lay into us. But they admonish us, they encourage us. I know you can do better than what you just did. Isn't that how God wants to be towards us? Full of love and gentleness and mercy. Wisdom from above is characterized by good fruits, full of good things that we are doing for other people in the name of God, full of good actions. Wisdom from above is unwavering and consistent. Imagine your favorite grandparent or your favorite, whoever you think of embodies that idea of gentle wisdom. And then imagine that every time you go to their house, they're in a different mood, right? Sometimes they're happy, sometimes they're grumpy. Sometimes you just want to... If they were inconsistent, they might not be your favorite person very long, would they? The idea of gentle wisdom is consistency. They're always the same attitude. Without hypocrisy, speak and make sure that's the way you're doing it. Don't just claim to be a Christian. Be a Christian, James says. Show your faith by what you do. Prove that you are wise and full of understanding in the ways of God. How? By your good deeds done in the gentleness of wisdom. If only we could act out this one verse. Church, how much would that change your life? If every person that you interacted with, you filtered yourself through James 3:17. Imagine how your life would be. Imagine acting not according to your own wisdom or in accordance with the wisdom of the world around you or what people have told you, but according to God's wisdom, that pure wisdom of God. Imagine if in every situation you were peaceable, you were gentle, you reasoned and you considered the words of God. How should I proceed? How should I progress in this situation? And then on top of that, you were full of mercy. Church, wouldn't that change your life? Wouldn't that cause you to win at life, not only in this life now, but in life eternal? Imagine if we were unwavering in being a Christian, in doing the things that we read about in the book of James. Now you know what to do, church. Just read and do James 3:17. Oops, I have James 3:1. That's supposed to have an 8 after that. James 3:18. How many of you feel wise right now? How many of you feel like you are doing what it said in that last verse in James 3:17? I know. I feel more like he said in 3 verse 2, where we all stumble and we fail and we fall. But I think James knew what he was asking of us. I think he knew what he was writing to his readers. That's why he wrote 3:18. It says, "And the seed whose fruit is righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace." How do you think James wrote this letter? Do you think he was an angry tyrant saying, "This isn't how you should be, this is how you should be"? I picture James kind of in the later years of his life in the gentle wisdom that would be able to take us aside and say, "Hey, you just need to plant a little tiny seed. You need to have just a little bit of mercy planted in every day of your life. In every situation, add a little bit of gentleness. And you'll reap. You will sow a field of righteousness, of being right in God's eyes." Do you see? Just a little bit each day. And pretty soon you'll be full of mercy. You'll be full of good works. And you'll be full of righteousness, being right in the eyes of God. This morning I encourage you to be wise and be understanding, and to show it in the wisdom of doing things in the gentleness of God's wisdom.